The deep space was quiet and empty, just like it had been for thousands of years. Commander Hyunwoo floated near the main window of his ship, looking out at the stars. His crystal-like skin caught the light from distant suns and threw rainbow colors across the ship's white walls. He was from the Viridian race, and his people had been exploring space for over 2,000 years. They thought they had seen everything the galaxy could offer. "Commander, we have something strange on our sensors," called Engineer Boram from her station. Her blue skin rippled with the patterns that showed she was excited. The Nerian people lived in water worlds, and their emotions showed through color, changes on their skin. Hyunwoo moved to her station with smooth steps. His crystal feet made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. "What did you find?" Boram pointed at her screen. The display showed a small dot moving slowly through space. "It's a ship, but it's very old. Our computers say it has been drifting here for almost 1,000 years." Dr. So-young looked up from her research table. She was also Nerian, like Boram, but older and more experienced. Her skin was a deeper blue that showed years of wisdom. 1,000 years? That would make it older than most of our Federation records. What species built it? "That's the strange part," Boram said. Her skin patterns shifted to show confusion. "It doesn't match any ship design in our database. The metal looks primitive, but the shape is unlike anything we know." Captain Jin Ho entered the room. He was tall and thin, from the Zephyrian race that lived on wind planets. His body moved like he was always floating, even in normal gravity. "I heard we found something interesting. Should we take a closer look?" Hyunwoo studied the readings on Boram's screen. The unknown ship was long and narrow, with sharp edges that looked dangerous even from far away. Most Federation ships were round and smooth, designed to show peace and friendship. This ship looked like it was built for war. "Send out a scanning beam," Hyunwoo ordered. "Let's see what secrets this old ship holds." The scanning beam reached across space and touched the ancient vessel. Immediately, new information filled their screens. The ship was much larger than they first thought. It was made of metals that their computers couldn't identify. Stranger still, it was giving off energy readings that showed it might still be working. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. So-young. "No ship can stay powered for 1,000 years without maintenance. The energy source should have died long ago." Boram's skin flashed bright patterns of amazement. "Commander, look at these weapon readings. This ship has more firepower than our entire fleet combined." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stared at the numbers on their screens. The ancient ship carried weapons that could destroy entire planets. Its armor was thicker than anything they had ever seen. Its engines, even after 1,000 years, were more powerful than the newest Federation technology. Captain Jin Ho floated closer to the main screen. "What kind of species builds ships like this? And where are they now?" "Maybe they destroyed themselves," suggested Dr. So-young. "A species that builds such weapons might not be able to live in peace." But Hyunwoo wasn't convinced. His crystal mind worked through the possibilities. If this species had been so advanced, why had no one ever heard of them? The Federation kept records of every known intelligent species in the galaxy. There was no mention of anyone who could build ships like this. "Prepare a boarding team," Hyunwoo decided. "We need to examine this ship up close." "Is that safe?" asked Captain Jin Ho. "We don't know if there are any crew members still alive on that ship." "The bioscanners show no life signs," Boram reported. "But the ship's computer systems are still active." Dr. So-young gathered her research tools. "This could be the discovery of our lifetime. Think of what we might learn from their technology." The boarding team prepared carefully. They wore their best protection suits and carried tools for cutting through metal if needed. The alien ship had no docking ports that matched Federation designs, so they would need to cut their way inside. As their small shuttle approached the ancient vessel, they could see it more clearly. The ship's surface was covered in strange markings. That might have been writing. The metal was dark and looked like it had survived battles. There were scorch marks and impact craters along its sides. "This ship has been in combat," observed Jin Ho. "Look at all the damage." But the damage was old, very old. Whatever battles this ship had fought were finished long ago. Now it drifted, Silently through space like a ghost from the past, they found a place on the ship's side where the metal looked thinner. Boram used her cutting laser to make an opening. The beam cut through the ancient metal easily, but as soon as the hole was complete, lights began to flicker inside the ship. "It's responding to our presence," said Dr. So-Young with excitement. "The ship knows we're here." They floated through the opening into a corridor that was much larger than needed for any known species. The gravity inside was strange too, heavier than most Federation ships used. Everything was built on a bigger scale, as if the creatures who made this ship were larger and stronger than current galactic peoples. The walls were covered with symbols and pictures that told stories of great battles. There were images of other ships being destroyed, of entire fleets burning in space, of worlds being protected from some terrible enemy. "These pictures show a war," Hyunwoo said quietly. "A war bigger than anything in our history books." As they moved deeper into the ship, more lights came on. The ancient vessel was waking up after its 1,000-year sleep. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sound of machines starting to work again. They found what looked like the ship's central computer room. The walls were covered with screens and control panels. In the center stood a chair that was clearly meant for the ship's commander. Everything about the room spoke of military precision and deadly purpose. Boram approached one of the control panels. "I think I can access their computer system. The technology is old, but it's surprisingly compatible with our equipment." "Be careful," warned Jinho. "We don't know what kind of defenses this ship might have." But it was too late. As soon as Boram touched the control panel, the entire room came to life. Screens lit up with information in a language none of them recognized. Warning sounds echoed through the corridors. And then, in the center of the room, a figure appeared. It was a projection of a creature unlike any they had seen before. It stood on two legs like some Federation species, but it was built differently, stronger, more aggressive. Its eyes held intelligence and determination that made even the brave Commander Hyunwoo step backward. The figure began to speak in a voice that carried authority and sadness. None of them understood the words, but the ship's computer quickly provided translation. "If you are seeing this message, then you have found the last gift of humanity." 3 days had passed since Commander Hyunwoo's team first boarded the ancient human ship. The Federation had sent their best scientists and engineers to study the vessel, but every new discovery only made the mystery deeper. Dr. So-Young swam through the ship's flooded research labs, using her Narration abilities to work underwater while examining human technology. The humans had built parts of their ship to work in different environments, showing they understood the needs of various alien species. "The more I study their designs, the more impressed I become," she reported to the team. These humans thought of everything. They built their ship to fight in any environment against any enemy. Engineer Boram was working in the ship's power core area. The human fusion reactor was still running after 1,000 years, producing more energy than their largest Federation power plants. "I don't understand how this is possible," she said, her skin showing patterns of confusion and wonder. "Their reactor should have broken down centuries ago." Captain Jinho floated through the ship's corridors, studying the human living areas. Everything was built for creatures who were shorter than his people, but much heavier and stronger. The walls had marks that looked like they came from intense physical training. These humans were warriors, he observed. Everything about their ship shows they were always ready for battle. But it was Commander Hyunwoo who made the most disturbing discovery. In the ship's central computer core, he found detailed files about every species that now belonged to the Galactic Federation. The humans had studied them all, their technologies, their weapons, their weaknesses, their homeworlds. "They knew everything about us," he told the others during their daily meeting. "They had complete intelligence files on 47 different species. They knew how to defeat every one of us." Dr. So-Young's skin darkened with worry. But why? If they were trying to protect us from the Devourers, why did they need to know how to fight us? The answer came when Boram accessed deeper levels of the human computer system. She found battle simulations that showed humans fighting against every known Federation species. In every simulation, the humans won. "Look at these projections," she said, calling the others to her station. They calculated that they could defeat the entire Federation fleet with just 12 ships like this one. The tactical displays showed human strategies that were brutal and effective. They would target the power systems of Viridian crystal ships, use sonic weapons against Zephyrian wind bodies, and create underwater traps for Nerean vessels. The humans had found ways to turn each species' natural abilities against them. Captain Jin Ho read through the human files with growing alarm. They planned for every possibility. What if some Federation species refused to believe the Devourer threat? What if some species tried to make deals with the enemy? What if some species tried to attack humanity while they were fighting the Devourers? They were ready for betrayal, Hyunwoo realized. The humans didn't just prepare to fight the Devourers. They prepared to fight anyone who might help the Devourers or attack them from behind. Dr. So Young found psychological profiles that the humans had created about different alien species. The files showed that humans understood how other species thought and acted. They knew which races might panic under pressure, which might try to surrender, and which might be brave enough to fight. They studied us like we were potential enemies, she said sadly, even while they were trying to save us. But then Boram found something that changed everything. Deep in the ship's memory banks, she discovered the personal logs of human crew members. These weren't military reports or tactical plans. These were the private thoughts and feelings of the people who had lived and died on this ship. The first log belonged to someone called Captain Dongwoo. In his recording, he talked about missing his family on Earth. He worried about whether they were making the right choices. He wondered if other species would ever understand why humanity had to seem so threatening. "We don't want to be the galaxy's warriors," Captain Dongwoo had said in his log. "We want to be explorers and scientists and artists. But someone has to stand guard while others sleep safely. Someone has to be ready for the terrible things that come from the dark between stars." Another log came from Strategic Coordinator Kyung-ho. He had been responsible for planning humanity's military preparations. In his recording, he explained why they had studied other species so carefully. "We're not planning to conquer anyone," Kyung-ho had said. "We're planning to save everyone. But saving people sometimes means fighting for them, even when they don't want you to. We need to know how to protect each species in the way that works best for them." The logs revealed the truth that the tactical files had hidden. Humanity hadn't been preparing to fight the Federation. They had been preparing to defend the Federation from threats it couldn't imagine. Every weakness they had identified, they had also created defenses for. Every strategy for defeating Federation species came with detailed plans for protecting them. "They were planning to be our guardians," whispered Dr. So Young. "They made themselves into monsters so they could fight real monsters." But the most shocking discovery came when they found the ship's final battle logs. The humans had fought a running retreat across the galaxy, drawing the Devourers away from populated worlds. They had sacrificed entire fleets to keep the enemy focused on them instead of attacking defenseless planets. The last log entry was from Fleet Admiral Yoon-ji, recorded just before the final battle at Earth. Her face was tired but determined as she spoke to the camera. "Today we end this war," she had said. "The Devourers think they're chasing us home for an easy victory. They don't know we've turned our home into a trap. In a few hours, both humanity and the Devourers will be nothing but dust and memory, but the galaxy will be safe." The aliens stood in silence as they realized the full truth. Humanity hadn't been conquered or destroyed by war. They had chosen to destroy themselves to save everyone else. They had become the greatest warriors in galactic history, not for conquest but for protection. And now their ancient war machine drifted through space as the only reminder of their sacrifice. The news spread through the Galactic Federation like fire through dry grass. Within hours of Commander Hyun-woo's report, every major world knew about the discovery of the ancient human ship. The reaction was not what anyone had expected. Counselor. Hana called an emergency meeting of the Nexus Assembly on the Federation capital world. Her tall, elegant form moved gracefully through the great hall where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered. The Nexus people were known for their calm wisdom, but even Hana looked worried as she addressed the crowd. "Fellow beings of the Federation," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We have learned of a species that once existed in our galaxy, a species that possessed military technology far beyond our current capabilities. Worried murmurs filled the hall. Representatives from dozens of different species talked nervously among themselves. The peaceful Federation had not known real war for over 500 years. The idea of ancient superweapons drifting through space frightened them. Admiral Teo stood up from his seat in the military section. His rock-like granite body made grinding sounds as he moved. The granite people were natural soldiers, but even they had never imagined weapons like those found on the human ship. "Counselor Hana, with respect, we should destroy this ship immediately," he declared in his deep, rumbling voice. "Technology that dangerous should not exist. What if other species try to copy these human weapons?" But Chief Scientist Junseo disagreed strongly. The elderly Luminar's light body flickered with bright patterns that showed his excitement. His people lived as pure energy and could understand technology in ways others couldn't. "We cannot destroy such a treasure," Junseo argued. "This human technology could advance our science by centuries. Think of what we could learn from their power systems, their materials, their manufacturing techniques." The debate grew heated as more representatives joined the argument. Some species wanted the ship destroyed before its weapons could threaten anyone. Others wanted to study it and learn from human science. A few radical voices even suggested that humanity had been planning to conquer the galaxy before they disappeared. Intelligence analyst Ye Jin had been quietly studying the reports from the boarding team. She was from the Whisper people. Small, creatures who were excellent at finding hidden information. When she finally spoke, her tiny voice somehow carried clearly through the great hall. "Honored representatives, there is something else you should know," she said. "The humans had detailed intelligence files on all of our species. They knew our military capabilities, our weaknesses, our homeworld locations. They had complete battle plans for fighting every one of us." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Fear and anger mixed as representatives realized that an unknown species had been studying them like potential enemies. Some species began to wonder if their ancestors had encountered humans and simply forgotten about them. "This proves it," shouted Representative Quan Su of the Trader Guild. His merchant species had always been suspicious of military power. "These humans were planning galactic conquest. They were studying us to learn how to defeat us." But Ye Jin held up her small hand for silence. "That's not all the files contain. The humans also had detailed protection plans for every species. For each way they could defeat us, they had also planned how to defend us." She activated the chamber's main display screen, showing tactical diagrams from the human ship. "Look at these defensive formations. The humans had plans to protect Viridian, crystal cities, from energy weapons. They designed shields specifically for Nerean underwater colonies. They created escape routes for Zephyrian sky cities." The mood in the hall began to change as representatives saw the evidence. The humans hadn't been planning conquest. They had been planning protection. They had studied everyone's weaknesses so they could defend against those weaknesses. Admiral Teo examined the defensive plans with his military eye. "These are not the plans of conquerors," he admitted reluctantly. "These are the plans of protectors. But protectors from what?" Dr. So Young's report answered that question. She had been analyzing the organic residue found in the human ship's combat areas. Her findings were disturbing and fascinating. "The genetic material we found doesn't match any known species," she explained to the assembly. "But I have found similar residue in ancient crater sites on 12 different Federation worlds. Craters that we always thought were caused by natural meteor impacts." She showed images of the crater sites. They were all old, very old, dating back to the time when the human ship was still active. The genetic residue in each crater was identical to what they had found on the human vessel. "The Devourers were real," Dr. So Young concluded, "and they were here in our space, attacking our worlds. We just never knew it because the humans stopped them before they could do serious damage." The assembly hall became completely quiet as the full truth sank in. The random disasters that had struck various worlds over the centuries, the unexplained explosions, the mysterious attacks on remote colonies, the strange disappearances of exploration ships. They hadn't been accidents or natural disasters. They had been devourer attacks that humanity had stopped. Counselor Hana stood up slowly. Her wise face showed deep respect and sadness. We owe our existence to a species we never knew existed. Humanity saved us all and asked for nothing in return. But fear still filled many hearts in the assembly. If humanity had possessed such incredible military power, what else might be hiding in the dark spaces between stars? What other ancient threats might still be drifting through space, waiting to be discovered? Representative Minho of the Defense Coalition raised the question that everyone was thinking. If the humans were so powerful, what could have been strong enough to destroy them? The ship's logs say humanity won the war, but where are they now? Admiral Teo had been studying the human tactical files. According to their battle records, they won by sacrificing everything. They didn't just defeat the Devourers, they made sure the Devourers could never threaten anyone again. But the cost was their own extinction. The weight of that sacrifice settled over the assembly like a heavy blanket. An entire species had chosen to die so that others could live. They had given up their future so that the Federation could have one. As the meeting ended, many representatives left with changed hearts. The galaxy they thought they knew had been built on the bones of heroes they had never heard of. And floating, somewhere in the darkness, was a 1,000-year-old war machine that served as the only monument to humanity's courage. But some representatives left with fear instead of gratitude. If humans had been so powerful, what other forgotten dangers might still be lurking in the galaxy's dark corners? 2 weeks after the discovery of the human ship, xenobiologist Wu Jin made a breakthrough that changed everything the Federation thought they knew about their own history. She had been carefully studying the strange organic material found in the combat areas of the human vessel, working day and night to unlock its secrets. Wu Jin belonged to the Seeker race, small creatures with 6 arms who were naturally curious about all forms of life. Her people had discovered and cataloged thousands of species across the galaxy. But the genetic material from the human ship was unlike anything in their vast databases. The DNA structure is completely alien, she reported to Dr. So Young and the other scientists. It doesn't follow the same patterns as any known life form. It's as if it came from creatures that evolved in a completely different way. Dr. So Young studied the data with growing excitement. Her Nerian mind was excellent at finding connections between different pieces of information. If this genetic material is from the Devourers, then we should be able to trace it. DNA doesn't just disappear. There should be traces of it wherever the Devourers attacked. Wu Jin's 6 arms moved quickly as she searched through the Federation's geological databases. She was looking for any sites where similar genetic material might have been found over the past 1,000 years. What she discovered made her call for an immediate emergency meeting. I found matches, she announced to the assembled team. 12 different worlds have impact sites that contain the same genetic residue, sites that we always believed were natural meteor craters. Captain Subin had just arrived from Federation headquarters to oversee the investigation. She was a veteran officer from the Voidwalker species, beings who could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. Her dark, star-filled skin showed she had spent many years in deep space. "Show us these sites," Subin ordered. The main display screen filled with images of crater sites from across Federation space. Some were on heavily populated worlds, others on remote mining colonies. All of them dated from the same time period when the human ship had been active. "This crater on Viridian Prime," Wu Jin explained, pointing to a large impact site on Commander Hyunwoo's home world. "Our records say it was caused by a massive asteroid impact 800 years ago. But the genetic residue suggests something very different." She enhanced the image to show details of the crater floor. Strange patterns were carved into the rock, patterns that looked like they had been made by living creatures, not natural impacts. "These marks match the combat damage we found inside the human ship," Dr. So Young observed. "Something with claws and teeth made these scratches." Engineer Borum had been running computer simulations based on the crater data. "If I'm reading this correctly, each of these impact sites was actually a battle zone. Something landed on these worlds and started destroying everything around them until it was stopped." Captain Subin studied the battle patterns with her experienced military eye. These aren't random attacks. Look at the targeting. Each site was near major population centers or important resource areas. Someone was trying to cause maximum damage to each world. The truth became clear as they examined more evidence. The Devourers hadn't just been traveling through Federation space. They had been actively attacking Federation worlds for decades. The mysterious disasters that had struck various planets throughout history weren't natural catastrophes. They were invasion attempts that had been stopped before they could succeed. But stopped by whom? Asked Hyunwoo. There are no records of any military responses to these incidents. The answer came from the human ship's own battle logs. Strategic Coordinator Kyung-ho had left detailed records of every engagement between human forces and Devourer advanced scouts. The files showed that humanity had been fighting a secret war across the galaxy for over 50 years. They were protecting us without us knowing it, Dr. So-young whispered as she read through the battle reports. Every time the Devourers tried to establish a foothold on a Federation world, human ships appeared and drove them away. The human tactics were brilliant and ruthless. They would arrive at attack sites within hours of Devourer landings, before the creatures could establish strong positions. Human soldiers would fight the aliens in brutal ground combat while human ships bombarded the area from orbit. When the battle was over, they would remove all evidence of the attack and disappear. Captain Subin found records of human rescue operations that had saved millions of Federation citizens. Look at this report from the attack on Narian Colony. 7, she said. The humans evacuated the entire underwater city before the Devourers could reach it. Our own records show that evacuation as a response to volcanic activity. The humans made sure we never knew we were under attack, realized Boram. They wanted us to keep living in peace while they fought our battles for us. But the most shocking discovery came when Wu Jin analyzed the final genetic samples from the human ship. Mixed with the Devourer DNA, she found traces of human genetic material. The humans hadn't just fought the Devourers from a distance. They had fought them hand to hand, creature to creature, in close combat that often meant death for both sides. The humans were willing to die fighting these creatures, Wu Jin reported. Every battle cost them soldiers, but they kept fighting anyway. Engineer Bo Ram accessed the ship's medical records and found casualty reports that broke her heart. Thousands of humans had died protecting worlds they had never visited, saving people they had never met. The medical bay was filled with records of injuries that showed how dangerous the Devourers had been. These creatures had acid for blood, Dr. So-young read from a medical report. Their claws could cut through human armor like it was paper. Their bite carried diseases that could kill in hours. Fighting them up close was almost certain death. Yet the humans had done it anyway, again and again, wherever the Devourers appeared. They had thrown themselves into impossible battles because someone had to stop the enemy, and they were the only ones who could. Captain Subin found the final piece of the puzzle in the ship's strategic planning database. The humans had always known that the Devourers were just advanced scouts for a much larger invasion force. Everything they had done, all the secret battles, all the preparations, all the studying of Federation species, had been leading up to the final confrontation when the main Devourer fleet arrived. They spent 50 years preparing for one battle, Subin realized. Everything else was just practice for the real war. The evidence painted a picture of incredible heroism and sacrifice. Humanity had spent decades protecting the Federation in secret, asking for nothing in return, building toward a final battle they knew would destroy them. They had become the galaxy's guardians by choice, and they had paid the ultimate price for that choice. As the investigation team prepared their final report, they knew that the galaxy would never look the same again. Hidden in their peaceful history was a secret war fought by heroes who had asked for no recognition and received no thanks. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the last remnants of both humanity and the Devourers drifted as cosmic dust, locked together in eternal silence. 6 months had passed since the discovery of the human ship, and the Galactic Federation was still trying to understand what humanity's sacrifice meant for their future. The ancient vessel now floated in orbit around the Federation capital world, surrounded by research stations and protected by the largest fleet ever assembled. Supreme Chancellor Myung-ho stood in his office, looking out at the human ship through his window. He was one of the eldest of the sage species, beings who lived for thousands of years and accumulated vast wisdom. But even with all his experience, he had never faced a decision like this one. The debate had raged for months. Should the Federation tell its citizens the truth about humanity's sacrifice? Or should they keep it secret to avoid panic and fear? Some argued that knowing about the Devourers would terrify populations across the galaxy. Others believed that the galaxy deserved to know about its saviors. Commander Jae-won entered the office with the latest reports from the research teams. She was a young officer from the Starborn race, beings who lived in the cold void between planets. Her people were natural explorers and had been among the most enthusiastic supporters of studying human technology. Chancellor, the research teams have made remarkable progress, she reported. We've successfully reverse-engineered several human technologies. Their manufacturing techniques alone could revolutionize our industrial capabilities. Myung-ho turned from the window to face her. His ancient eyes held the weight of difficult decisions. And their weapons technology? More advanced than we imagined, Jae-won admitted. The humans had developed ways to fight that we never considered. They turned physics itself into weapons. Their final battle at Earth created a nova that could be seen from neighboring galaxies. Scientist Hyejin had been leading the technical analysis of human systems. She belonged to the Builder race, creatures whose entire culture was based on creating and improving technology. Her four-armed body was perfectly designed for working with complex machinery. The humans thought about war in completely different ways than we do, she explained during her presentation to the Chancellor's Council. We design our weapons to disable and capture. They designed their weapons to completely destroy threats. When they fought to win absolutely. The philosophical implications troubled many Federation leaders. The Federation had been built on principles of peace, cooperation, and non-violence. Learning that their safety had been purchased with the blood of warriors challenged everything they believed about civilization. Director Sang-min of the Cultural Studies Institute had been researching human society through the ship's databases. His tree people were known for their deep thinking and long-term planning. What he had learned about humanity both impressed and worried him. The humans were not naturally violent, he reported. Their early history shows they were explorers, scientists, artists, and dreamers, much like our own species. But when they learned about the Devourer threat, they chose to transform themselves into something harder and more dangerous. The cultural files showed how humanity had changed during their preparation for war. They had given up many peaceful pursuits to focus on military training. They had turned their entire civilization into a weapon designed to protect others. It was a sacrifice that went far beyond just dying in battle. They gave up who they were to become who the galaxy needed them to be. Sang-min explained. They chose to be warriors so that we could remain peaceful. As the months passed, the Federation began to implement changes based on human technology and philosophy. The new Deep Space Monitoring Division, led by Commander Jae-won, established sensor networks throughout the galaxy. These systems used human-designed detection methods that could spot threats the Federation had never known how to look for. The monitoring stations were equipped with weapons based on human designs, but modified for defense rather than destruction. The Federation had learned that sometimes having strong defenses was the best way to preserve peace. Scientist Hee-jin worked with teams from dozens of worlds to build the new defense network. They discovered that human technology was incredibly adaptable. The humans had designed their systems to work with any alien technology they might encounter. It was as if they had planned for their weapons to eventually be used by other species. They knew we would find their ship someday, Hyejin realized during one of her research sessions. They built everything to be compatible with our technology. They wanted us to be able to use their gifts. The human ship became the centerpiece of the new defense network. Instead of being a weapon of war, it was transformed into a command center for galactic protection. The Federation's best officers studied human tactical manuals and learned strategies that no one had ever imagined. Young Cadet Young-ho was among the first graduates of the new Federation Defense Academy, where human military philosophy was studied. alongside traditional Federation peacekeeping methods. He came from the Wave Rider species, beings who lived on ocean worlds and were naturally peaceful. Learning human tactics feels strange, he confided to his instructors. My people have never thought about fighting like this, but I understand why it's necessary. Someone has to be ready to protect peace when peace isn't enough. The memorial ceremony was held exactly 1 year after the ship's discovery. Representatives from every Federation world gathered in the vast space around the human vessel. Supreme Chancellor Myung-ho spoke for all of them as he dedicated the memorial. To the humans of Earth, he said, his ancient voice carrying across space through communication systems. You saved a galaxy that never knew your names. You became warriors so we could remain at peace. You gave your lives so that billions of others could live theirs. A monument was built in the space near the human ship. It was made from materials donated by every Federation world, creating a structure that represented the unity humanity had died to protect. The inscription was simple but powerful. Unknown Guardians, Unforgotten Heroes. Director Sang Min established the Human Studies Institute to preserve everything they had learned about Earth's children. The Institute would make sure that humanity's sacrifice was never forgotten and that their wisdom would guide future generations. They taught us that sometimes being civilized means being ready to fight for civilization, Sang Min explained to his students. They showed us that true strength comes from being willing to sacrifice for others. As the years passed, the Federation grew stronger and wiser under the protection of human-designed defenses. The galaxy became safer because humanity had shown them how to be safe. And in the center of it all, the ancient human ship continued its eternal watch, no longer a weapon of war, but a symbol of the greatest love possible, the love that chooses to die so others can live. Cadet Young-ho, now a full officer, often visited the memorial during his off-duty hours. He would look at the human ship and wonder about the people who had built it. What had they been like when they weren't preparing for war? What dreams had they given up to become the galaxy's protectors? He would never know the answers, but he would spend his life making sure their sacrifice meant something. The galaxy was full of wonders and beauty because humanity had chosen darkness so others could see light. And in the cold space around the memorial, the ancient war machine continued its silent vigil, proof that sometimes the greatest victory requires the greatest loss.